Hello and welcome again to Money Tips. This is Charles Kelly on a sort of cold, cloudy Friday afternoon here in London. Hope you're all having a great day or evening wherever you are in the world. And today is, of course, Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's to everyone who's tuning in here and listening to my podcasts on moneytipsdaily.com or via sort of iTunes, Stitcher or wherever. So what's been happening this week? Well, I'll go through the weekly sort of updates, but there's just some good news for those of you in the UK, British travellers who are perhaps taking half-term holidays next week, and that is that the pound or sterling has risen against the euro to its highest level since the sort of referendum fallout. And that's good news because I've been away a few times in Europe in the last couple of years, and I've been horrified by the amount of euros I was getting for a pound. You know, sometimes it was less than a pound at the airports, and I'll come on to that in a second. But it made things very, very expensive in Paris, where I actually paid £50 for a pint of beer or something. It was £40 or something. It was crazy prices in Paris. You know, £6, £7, £8 for a coffee. Paris is one of the most expensive cities I've visited for a while. And it makes me laugh when people say London's expensive because there's so many cheap places to eat and get food, and all the museums are free. Cheap public transport, and you can walk around many parts of London and go into so many galleries. The National Gallery free, Science Museum, British Museum, all free. In Paris, you pay through the nose for everything. You go into the Louvre, it's like €30 or whatever, packed full of people. You can't move in there, you can't see anything. Anyway, that's enough of my rant about Paris. But the pound has gone up. All right, you're not going to get a huge amount of euros, but you'll get more like 120, 117 through decent bureau de changes. But if you, I mean, on the currency market, it's 120, so you might be able to find this online or at your post office. But it's more likely to be £1.17 or €1.17 to a pound. But the worst rates are in the airports where tourists are just getting really ripped off. One travel money company called Equals said that the worst airport deals saw tourists changing £500 and getting £172 less of euros less than the mid-market rate, and that's a lot of money. That's getting on for what 25-30% less. It's just crazy that you could get that much less. Normally you think, well, it's only a few pounds difference here or there if you're changing up a few £100s. I mean, obviously a lot of people now will use credit cards, and then they perhaps don't see what the credit cards are charging. If you have one of these cards like the Nationwide where you can draw cash abroad for free, then that can be a useful way of using cash abroad, because not everyone likes credit cards in Europe. Especially you go to small places, they generally don't like credit cards and don't use credit cards so much as we do here, and taxis and that sort of thing. So my advice is not to change any money at the airports. And it says here that the airports seem to be stuck in this less than a pound, less than €1 for a pound. So sometimes if you go to the airport, still you can actually change up £100 and get slightly less by the time they've taken off their charges than £100, or you get less than €100, which is ridiculous. When even at the low point it was still 1.14 or €1.14 to a pound, and yet they were still giving you like, here's £100, well here's €99. It is just the biggest rip off, and they really are ripping people off. And I would definitely try and change your money to in places like the post office, or go online and find the best deals. Of course, this week we've had a new Chancellor yesterday. Rishi Sunic was announced as a new Chancellor. This is when the previous Chancellor, Sajid Javid, who I've met, resigned. There was obviously some sort of boardroom bust up in number 10, and apparently they were asking him to sack all his special advisors, and he said, no, I can't do that, and walked out. He has had a bit of a run-in with Dominic Cummings, who's a sort of special advisor to the Prime Minister in the past, and perhaps this was the straw that broke the camel's back. But yesterday there was a big reshuffle of ministers, with Boris bringing in his own team, because when he was Prime Minister before the election, he didn't really have the majority to give him the authority to just sack ministers and reshuffle things. But now he's got an 80 majority. He can bring in his own team and people that are really behind him 100%. But he didn't actually sack the Chancellor. But Rishi Sunic is an interesting guy. He came to our constituency once to apply for the job of MP. This was back 2014, I think. And he was one of 4 candidates who stood up in front of us and pitched to be our local MP. In the end, we chose a guy who was more local, and we didn't pick him because he came from out of the area, but he did get placed somewhere else, and he eventually went to Richmond in Yorkshire, which was the old seat of William Hague, who was former leader of the party, and but he was quite an impressive guy. He said he'd made a lot of money from this, that, the other IT software type of stuff, and he was financially independent. And looking at his background, he's married to the daughter of one of India's richest businessmen, the former owner of Infosys, the worldwide software company, and they're actually sort of multi-billionaires. So he's had a rapid rise to the top, really, because he's virtually at the top there. From 2014 to get that far up the ladder is just incredible. When you think that an MP would normally become an MP, they might get a junior minister position, they might get they might get nothing, they might just get a committee or something like that. But he's gone from a junior minister to a treasury position to Chancellor of the Exchequer, which is one of the great ministries of state. So he's done very well. But apparently the pound improved initially on this announcement. I don't quite know why the pound suddenly improved. But anyway, the message today is don't wait to change your money until you get to the airport. I mean, I've done it myself. You get to the airport, oh God, I need some euros, because the other end I'm going to need, at least 50 euros for cabs and that sort of thing, because most European cities don't have a metro or an underground running from the station. I think Madrid does, but most European cities, you're stuck there looking at a packed bus or you're getting cabs. So there you go. But as I was saying, I've gone to the airport and I've been really ripped off by these currency people, and the best thing is to prepare in advance and get your euros or whatever you want in advance, and then use things like a cash card that you can draw tax-free, charge-free cash like the Nationwide do. You can draw from your account abroad. So other news in the housing market, we saw a bit of a New Year bounce in the housing market, where activities increased. I reported this a couple of weeks ago, but this is now from the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, who run all the surveyors that go around and survey your house and value your house when you're remortgaging or when you're buying. And they say that definitely things have improved, and inquiries are up and sales are up. I don't think this means that prices have necessarily gone up that much. Remember, there's still a big gap for people who want to get on the housing market. There's still a huge gap between pay, which hasn't gone up much in the last 10 years on average, and house prices, which have shot up in the last 10 years. So I until that gap comes down, I don't know what's going to happen. In parts of London now, you're looking at sort of 15 times average salary to between an average salary and the average house price. And even in places like St Albans, which is miles out of London, it's probably 12 to 15 times there, the average salary in that area compared to the average house price. So how are young people going to get on this ladder? I'm not talking about teenagers, I'm talking about people in their 30s and 40s who still haven't managed to buy a house. I bought my house, I think it was in my late teens, I bought a flat. And okay, it wasn't easy and interest rates were very high, but on an average salary, I was able to buy a flat in the suburbs of London, which would not be possible now. That same flat now would probably sell for, let's say, 300,000, average salary 27,000. It's more than 10 times that now, and that was just a 2-bedroom converted flat in East London. Nothing special. So that I don't know how that's going to be dealt with. I think obviously buy-to-let investors such as myself have been buying properties, and then there's these new properties that have been sold on Help to Buy that's kept the market up a little bit. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, it's still good news that house prices are on the move, but I don't think everything's sorted out yet in the economy. Then we had, obviously yesterday, the cabinet reshuffle, which I've talked about. Brexit negotiations are continuing. I went to a meeting in Parliament where they talked about Brexit negotiations. One of the speakers described Brexit as a divorce, so there's a lot of settlement to be carried out. And I thought to myself, well, I wonder if the new deal that we get will be like a civil partnership. We're not quite married, but we've got all the same sort of rules that apply as in a marriage almost. But we will have to see if we get a deal and that's suitable for everyone and everybody ratifies. Then we said that earlier on, one of the challenger banks had closed down, N26, which sounds like a postcode. It's not going bust or anything; it just closed down in the UK. Couldn't quite make it. Remember that a lot of these challenger banks are quite small. They're not as safe as the more established banks. Although, in the last recession we saw RBS, which was at one point the biggest bank in the world when it had bought ABN AMRO, and that ran out of money. It was going bust before the government had to bail them out. So which bank is safe? But remember that in a bank you have on deposit, you have a deposit protection scheme up to £85,000. So if you have all your money in one bank, then and it's more than £85,000, you'd only be covered up to that amount. Then we looked at deposit-free renting, which is a growing trend where they say it's deposit-free, but you pay a fee instead. And I asked the question, is this really a tenant fee, an illegal tenant fee in disguise? Well, trading standards will be looking at that, and I'm sure that some of these schemes will be called into question because they don't seem quite right to me. But have a look you can find out all these on the website moneytipsdaily.com. And all that is left for me now is to wish you a happy Valentine's Day. If you haven't got a Valentine's gift, how about buying this book? Yes, money can buy you happiness. So instead of buying flowers, dear, I bought you this book. You can read it, and I'm sure she'll be really happy. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Anthony there, Bunty, Dave. So thanks a lot. And I will speak to you soon. Have a great weekend and have a great evening, whatever you're doing. Thanks a lot.